The brand is a fusion between the arts and literature. I started with literature as I liked the idea of a novel telling a story and how fragrance can tell a story. I wanted people to be able to relate to the fragrance in a different way. You know, a lot of perfumers talk about creating perfume based on one of their own personal trips or their childhood and how that fragrance was important to them. But for me, that removes you as somebody who can smell the fragrance from that relationship unless you know that perfumer really well. At least by basing it on a book, you may have read the book, and you definitely can read the book, which allows you to create a different relationship with the perfume. For example, Simone de Beauvoir, She Came to Stay, is a book about her relationship with Jean-Paul Sartre and is widely considered by many to be the start of contemporary feminism. Jack Kerouac's On the Road was the start of the Beat generation, which became widely considered to be the start of the hippie movement and the idea of free love and road trips. Joris Karl Huysmans was the influence behind Oscar Wilde and Dorian Gray. He left the naturalist movement and became the start of the decadent period. Yukio Mishima is a Japanese author. He's not very well known in Europe, but in Japan is considered to be one of their greatest authors. He writes a lot about the conflict between tradition and modernity. And Conrad writes a lot about colonialism and the harm of colonialism. And it's a very controversial writer, as he does talk a lot about race issues as well. The reason I called the brand Timothy Hahn Edition is because when you're using a lot of natural ingredients like we do, it's a lot like, for example, fine wine. You can have the same wine made from the same grape in the same vineyard with the same vinter, but year after year there will be subtle variations due to the climate, the temperature, the humidity, and all that will affect the taste of the grape. The same is true with perfumes using natural ingredients, that they will affect the scent profile of that ingredient. A lot of the big perfume houses like to try and hide that, but there is a whole underground movement of people who are much more aware of these changes, and they will very specifically try to get perfumes from a certain era, even though it's the same perfume, because they know they smell different. So that was the original idea of why I called it Edition. It was essentially, I suppose, a bit like giving it a vintage or a batch number for the brand, and that's why they're all numbered. The other reason we called it Edition is it's a bit like a book. When you buy a book is printed in editions. There's the first edition, there's the second edition, there's the third edition. And I wanted that to do with our perfumes as well, that each time there's a batch, you knew which printing, so to speak, that it was. And for the same reason, we chose to work with contemporary artists who take the story that I based the perfume on as a starting point. From that, they begin to create artwork that's based on that story, and to some extent on the fragrance as well. So it's all artwork which is created based around that fragrance. And I really wanted to capture that fusion between scent, art, and fashion. We tend to sell primarily through fashion boutiques, less through perfume stores, but more through concept stores.